Well, welcome back to Podcast Central, episode 4 of Ramble On, and my usual sparring partner, J Ronk, is he's schlepping around on a well-earned break, but that's a wonderful opportunity to bring in our Deputy Mayor, Todd Redwood. Welcome, Todd.
Well, thanks, Sam. It's great to be here, and I like to refer to myself as some local talent.
You are. There's no doubt you're local talent. No reference to the depth of talent here locally, but you certainly bubbled to the top.
Well, comparatively, of course, yeah.
One always wants to, benefit by comparison. Todd, I thought the way that we'd go today is a bit of a get to know you, understand, you, what you do, how you do it, where you came from, why you're here, where you're going, and then just maybe bust a few local myths that are getting around.
Terrific. Yeah, happy to do that.
Wonderful. All right, tell me about you. Are you a long-term Armidale boy or?
Yeah, so Armidale was home for me in my teens, and I went to school here from 13 to 18, and then went off to the big wide world and pursued my career as a chef, and then in various other roles until eventually I returned about 2.5 years ago, and came back to 30 years later to an Armidale that didn't quite look like the Armidale that I'd left. But yeah, I was certainly Armidale would be home for me.
Right. So having been on council for 18 months, you'd only been back for less than 12 before you became a councillor and ultimately deputy mayor. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, it was, I came back in the April of 21 and the election was in December 21. So yeah, it was a fairly compressed interest in standing for council.
Okay, so speaking of interest, what's piqued your interest? What made you think you'd give it a shot?
Well, as I mentioned, I think Armidale had lost some of its lustre. Great foundations, great fabric to work with here, but some of the things that I remember as a kid that were outstanding just weren't quite outstanding anymore, and I think that there was maybe a lack of cohesion and the ambition maybe had gone in Armidale. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to do something for the community and set the place up for the future. I've got young kids, and it was our ambition to stay in Armidale for a long term, so that those kids would grow up in a good place and have the opportunity to either stay in Armidale or go away from Armidale and come back again. So I thought that it was worth the while in giving it a shot.
Yep, wonderful. And so young kids, young family, how do you balance the council role, your proper job, so to speak, and family?
Yeah, so I do have a proper job. My proper job's based in London. I work for the British Standards Institution, and I have a global role. I manage a team of people around 31 countries around the world. But I thankfully, because it's around the world, a lot of that happens in the middle of the night, and that enables me to do a lot of the council activities that are required or that I'm interested in during the days, and of course balancing. Probably it'd be fair to say that family do get a fairly short end of the stick with me at times because of my commitments that I uphold. But realistically, I'd like to think that one day they'll thank me.
Right. Well, they'll learn how to catnap because I knowing you as I do, you don't get a whole lot of sleep.
No, there's not a lot of sleep, but I am good at the power nap, so 10 minutes can see me through for another day sometimes.
Wonderful. Okay, so you've come on to council, and what were you hoping to achieve here?
If I look back to what my campaign was, we wanted to be a vibrant region again. We wanted to really focus on bolstering the tourism dollar back into Armidale. Water security was one of the big things that became evident from the 2019 drought, so trying to shore that up, and also the connectivity and making sure that Armidale was reconnected with the outside world in a more grown-up fashion.
You mentioned tourism there at the start, and I've heard some people refer to you as our tourism czar, and wise heads have said that. What just maybe give us a bit of background on why tourism is of interest to you, and what do you think can be done, because it does get mentioned a lot by those in the community.
Yeah, so the reason that we came as a family to Armidale at the end of 1985 was because my father had been the tourist officer in Mudgee and then was prized into Armidale as the new tourist officer.
So this is back in the 80s?
Yeah, 1985, the end, and then at the time, the council wasn't particularly pro-tourism, but it wasn't against it either, and it was a bit of a difficult job. But yeah, my father was certainly instrumental in doing a lot of the stuff that had put Armidale on the map back then for the few years that he was doing that role. But I saw what happened at that time and how joined up Armidale became through that effort of sort of concerted tourism effort, and I think that's where we can really go with in the future again.
So where do you think we need to pick up? So it's obviously dropped away since your father's time here, and what do you think realistically can be done in the immediate term and then longer term?
I think one of the things it's very apparent is that the natural attractions haven't gone away. They're there, albeit some of them are dependent on good rain with the waterfalls. But yeah, even some of those areas are great and spectacular, even if it's just for walking and the waterfalls aren't running. And of course some of our architecture and some of the history around our area. So those things are still there, and we've certainly got some other attractions that are there. What seems to be missing is the joined up nature of it, where in those days, in the sort of late 80s, it was very joined up through the tourism efforts, and people knew what was going on, and it was a sort of single, this is Armidale and this is what we're trying to do. People knew what was going on. So it was a real connectedness, and I think there's a disconnect, and there's a lot of people trying, but doing it in a less joined up way. In those days there was the equivalent of the business chamber, which was very active as well, and that worked hand in hand with the tourism efforts. So I think there was a lot of things that I guess they've fallen off the perch.
So if we had some money to throw at it, let's say we had $100,000 or $200,000 to throw at promoting Armidale, and I know that regions like Orange spend, I think, just south of $400,000 per annum on their campaign. They get over 1 million unique visitors through Orange. What do you think we could do with that sort of money in Armidale? How would that be best spent?
Yeah, look, we've got, at the moment, we've got a bit of an ailing tourist centre, and some people might suggest that we don't need a tourist centre because tourists are different than they were 30 years ago. But tourist centres are still, demonstrated to be a worthwhile effort of councils. And
you've come back from a tourism conference, haven't you?
Yeah, there was a tourism conference on in Manly. It was a couple of months ago, but it was, it definitely demonstrated that tourism, that paper brochures are actually still not required necessarily, but preferred by a lot of tourists, even though we're in a digital age where some will prefer to do that. There are some places in our LGA where there is no connectivity, and so a paper map really becomes a very important tool. So yeah, there's campaigns to be done, but I think it's that ownership, and it's someone who really can take that ownership and be able to connect all of those dots together. And it won't be the effort of council, but yeah, certainly joining up with the business community, whether it be whether there be a sub branch of a business chamber that deals with hotels and accommodation, and another one that deals with eateries. I'm not sure.
And then we've got our artistic scene, so let's promote what's happening at Nearam, something on at the Playhouse, a travelling show coming through, and at the Hoskins Centre. Okay, so that's what you mean by joining dots.
Yeah, and anecdotally, a lot of the people that are in businesses that receive tourists, so say motels, hotels, who have people come through, they have to put together their own packages, their own ways of being able to display the Armidale region, because we don't really do that particularly well as a from a council perspective at the moment.
Okay, all right. Well, plenty of work to do. Let's I look forward to seeing the results down the track.
Absolutely.
Has being on council, is it what you expected or different, better, worse? Given this is just a chat between the two of us.
Yeah. No one's listening.
No one's listening.
Look, no, it has been. It's been very rewarding because I think one of the, I really enjoy my job that I do, and it's a meaningful job. But this one here, it gives you the ability, you've really got your hands on the levers and you can make changes. And, those changes are tangible and you can see it impact the community directly. So, we've got a relatively small community and the general feedback that you get from people is that what we as a new council are doing is positive and they're generally very happy with it. So I think that ability to make change has been remarkable, and I didn't realise that you could make so much change. Equally, there's a level of frustration working in local government and some of the restrictions that are imposed on local government by the structures that surround it, state government legislation and whatnot. So there's there are impediments to progress, but at the same time, I think we've been able to make incredible progress.
Yeah, and is that sheer will from some of the councillors? Is it an understanding of how to work with the executive? Because I know certainly during the campaign when I was out there, it's very tempting to say, I will do this, and you're quoting on operational things.
Yeah.
And then you get there and you think, oh, hang on a second.
It's
we're not on the coalface.
Not my remit, yeah. No. Look, working with, James through his leadership and the team.
Or Jay Ronk, because he's known on the podcast.
Jay Ronk, that's on the podcast. Yeah. He's brought together an exceptional leadership team, and working closely with those people means that I think, when we pull the levers, they're not pretend levers. They're actually, you've got the ability to do something because there's a commitment there from that team to be able to make things happen. All, of course, within the bounds of what we can do, what we're allowed to do, or what we're financially able to do.
Yeah, actually, and that's been a big one, hasn't it? Armidale Council, in its various iterations, has never really been financial, but hopefully we've turned that corner.
That's right, yeah. The special rate variation that went through not so long ago, which for some people may have been an unpopular move, but the general consensus and feedback that I've heard on the street is, why has it taken so long to do this? Thank goodness it's here, and let's get on with it and build back the region to something that's thriving again. So, having money is important.
So do you see that as one of the wins in your time on council?
I think it was a big win to be able to convince the population, the ratepayers here, for one, on the whole, but also to be able to convince the state government through IPART that it was necessary, and that what we put in as a genuine application was received in full. So I think that is a huge win for us, across the board, and will be part of the platform of what helps us grow out of the situation that we found ourselves in.
Any other wins that you think have been great in the past 18 months?
Definitely the water wins, because they were early ones, and I think a few of us entered into this with some heady ambition of being able to grow our way out of the situation, but it became a harsh reality very early on that we were growing nowhere without water. And so that water security package that we've been able to put together and are still building on at the moment, that I think that's an enormous win, because we were told ultimately you can't grow without water. What are you going to do about it? And we've been able to do that.
So you're talking the raising of Malpas Dam wall there, and the securing of Oakey.
That's right.
And maybe this is the first mini myth bust we could do. We said we'd do some at the end, but let's have a mid podcast myth bust.
Can't have enough myth busts, I think.
Well, you can't, because there's no end of myths.
That's right.
But Oakey Dam, council bought that for $4.3 million. There's been some talk. When I say in the community, let's say in the online community, that we shouldn't have paid anything for it because we used to own it once upon a time and it should have just been gifted to us, etc. Why didn't we just get it, or why didn't we just claim it?
Yeah, that's a good one. Because we didn't own it, we owned it once upon a time. So I guess it's a bit like selling someone a car and then going and claiming it back from them one day.
All right. So the myth that we owned it already is shot down. We'll call that myth busted.
That's myth busted because it became the property of Essential Energy.
So why didn't Essential Energy just give it to us? Because it was a broken dam, no one must have been interested in it. And we were the only ones silly enough.
Well, apparently we weren't the only ones silly enough to bid on it.
Right.
But yeah, it was an asset owned by Essential Energy, and of course, one of their ambitions was to rid themselves of it because it wasn't useful to them anymore. But as we understand it, our bid, whilst it was, some people might see that as excessive, certainly wasn't the highest bid, but it was a bid that had the best purpose and therefore was granted to us. So it all round a very good deal.
Politically, we were the best, but we didn't pay the most.
That's right. Yeah,
or the most expedient.
Which would also suggest that if the process that we went through to purchase it was a big mistake down the track, that there's someone else willing to pay more for it, so we could make some money out of it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll call that myth busted as well.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a win. Anything exciting happening in town? Any changes you've noticed in town in the last 28 hours?
Well, yeah, that's. I was unfortunately out of town when the great scooter launch occurred. But yeah, really,
scooter-geddon, as I've heard no one mention it as.
Yeah, no, scooter-geddon's here to stay. No, I mean, what a great opportunity for Armidale to be selected to do this trial, and I guess, maybe we could do another myth bust here at this point.
Why not?
But yeah, there are people saying that we've paid too much money to have these scooters here, when in fact we didn't really pay anything other than some of the time of some of the good staff on the council to be able to organise it.
That's a good one to get out there. I have seen, again, on social media, I did respond to one chap a while ago who's to say that no, council doesn't actually own the scooters, council didn't buy the scooters, council doesn't have a financial interest in this trial one way or the other, therefore no ratepayer money has been put forward to it, other than, as you said, some staff time. That same chap came back and asked more question, the same question but in a different forum and a slightly different way, but isn't going to take truth for an answer. So yeah, so we're in agreement. Council hasn't actually paid anything for this. We're just hosting.
No, we're
the
willing recipients of someone else's trial for the benefit of our community, and we believe that it will be a benefit. But yeah, that's what a trial's about. It's a pilot program, and it gives people the opportunity to use a different mode of transport around our great area of Armidale, and connect up some of the points, and done in a way that's sometimes illegal. Scootering is illegal on roads, but in this case, because of the type of scooter it is and under the program, it becomes legal.
That's right, and that's what makes our trial unique. It is on roads, although I do note some are inadvertently riding on the footpaths, but we'll tighten the screws there. Encourage
them not on the footpaths, but maybe on the bike paths.
There we go. So one of the things that I've also heard is that, look, this is a terrible spot for it. No one will use it. Any stats rolling in?
Yeah, well, we've heard some overnight stats about usage. So we heard that in the last 24 hours or 28 hours, there was 850 kilometres covered.
Hell's cats! That's
by those scootering,
and I think there were 400 unique trips. Now, I have to fess up, I was 4 of those trips.
Okay. But that's enthusiasm from the top.
Look, yeah, I am exuberant, as you know, but certainly about this, I thought it was what a fun thing to do. So I hired a scooter. I was heading down to there was a training session down at the Visitor Information Centre, and I thought, well, what better way to get to the training session than take a scooter? And I was coming past the old Richo's building, and there were 6 of them lined up, and I'd like to say I was a dab hand with the app, but anyway, my aged fingers probably didn't work, but we got it going. So I turned up to the trial on a scooter, which was great. Did a bit of training and weaving in and out at of some cones, which was posted to Facebook. I should add here, that was filmed in slow motion.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it did look like I was really concentrating, going slowly, but I was,
Didn't demonstrate your prowess?
I did. Well, I didn't fall off, so that was a win. So that was trip number one. Then I took the scooter back to the council office. I had a meeting there afterwards, and then I had another meeting at the bowling club later that afternoon. So my scooter that I'd parked near the council building, I was able to hop back on, slip to the bowling club, have another meeting, and came back. So that's 4 trips.
So I'm interested in that, actually. What was it like to ride on the roads, and how did you find interacting with the vehicles that are on the road?
I was reasonably comfortable with it. As you know, I'm a cyclist, so I'm used to, not having 2 tons of metal surrounding me.
Yeah.
So that was fine. I wasn't at all worried. What else? I actually thought the 15 k's an hour, which is in the CBD, felt a little bit too slow. So if the cars behind me, and I was across, I was about a metre out. I didn't want car doors opening, hence my. I was alert to that. But if there was a car behind me, I did feel that I was probably holding traffic a bit. That they'd get around you, and it was fine.
Yeah. Well, when I got off the plane this morning and went into council quickly for a meeting, I saw 3 scooters parked out the front, and I was in such a rush that I didn't get to touch them. But how heavy are they? Are they,
they are heavy.
Easy?
Look, when you're riding, they feel solid.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't feel flimsy. You don't feel as though a stiff breeze like we've got today will blow you off.
Yeah.
They are heavy. They're probably heavy. Being heavy is a good thing as well. Not that I see this as a challenge for the population, but if you want to throw it in the creek, you've got to carry a heavy chunk of metal. And I'm hopeful at some point, as you're carrying this thing to the creek to throw it in,
you think about it.
You think, surely there are better things to be doing.
Yeah.
Let's slip up to KFC, grab some nuggets. There have to be better things to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, I know that there are some of the more enthusiastic naysayers in the community are really looking forward to, and probably running a book on when some scooters will end up in the creek.
I did hear a bit of chatter see a bit of chatter on social media about that. When it would happen. And a couple of comments about some scooters that were parked in places where ultimately it becomes the rider's choice about where they park them. I mean, they could go and park their car on the footpath as well, and that'd be wrong. So it probably makes it equally wrong.
I think that, look, there's 50 or 60 designated parking areas dotted around the city. Now, you can park your scooter wherever you like. They'll give you a 50-cent rebate, I think it is, if you park in the designated zone.
Right.
But at the end of the day, there are 15 Beam Mobility, and they're the mob that are running the scooter trial. There are 15 of those people here in town who are slipping around, maintaining them, putting them back, tucking the scooters in at night back at their at their designated parking area. So anyway, we're 28 hours into a 12-month trial. Kinks to be ironed out, but I'm sure we will.
And the other area of interest that I heard is you can see the map of where the scooters are, and they have dispersed themselves around Armidale.
Yep.
So people are obviously using them, but, I guess making them available as well to other people in those areas. And I also read some other information about the fact that you don't have to just do I'm going to take this for the next half an hour now, but you can actually do longer term hires where you can get on and off, and it's your scooter for a period of time, and it makes it much more affordable in the eyes of some people. Some people were saying it's not an affordable way of getting around.
Oh, well, we'll trial it all. I'm not sure how much I spent yesterday, but anyway, 4 trips, and then my wife Caroline, she did 2 trips yesterday. She had to slip. Yeah, she did some quite long ones, and then I was actually tracking her on Life 360, not saying that I stalked my wife, but I was stalking my wife.
But you were stalking your wife.
Yeah. And look, she did take the scenic route to come back, and I'm not sure if that was because she got lost or because she was having so much fun, or
Probably fun.
Yeah. She was very, very excited when she got off, so that was a win.
And you've ridden those scooters before, haven't you?
I have. I gave a little bit of a rundown in the last podcast, and it fundamentally changed our evening. What would have been, and this is because we were off to a function. Caroline was wearing high heels. I'd underestimated or under-embellished how far the, if that's a phrase, how far the function was from the hotel we were staying at. And it wasn't until we hopped on scooters that, her mood lifted dramatically.
Beam scooters saved the day.
They did.
Or the night.
Or the whichever scooter mob it was. Yeah. Actually, that's probably one of the things you hear about, and I saw this when I was living in Sydney. The bikes, the hire bikes, and they, fell apart pretty quickly, and you'd see them scattered everywhere. And I think that was due to saturation, because there were 3 or 4 different bike hire companies. Some of them went financially under, and so they were just left with no one to collect them. A receiver was called in. Here we've got one provider.
Yeah, so a single provider, and with an interest in making it work as well.
Yeah, I guess they're not going to, if they find scooters are underutilised, they'll just drag them inside for a bit until demand picks up.
On the bike thing, and the whole concept, it wasn't that long ago I was in Barcelona for a work meeting, and just the number of Barcelona's a great place to ride, and the local Spaniards are riding anyway, but there's a lot of those bikes that are in designated rack areas for hire. You can only hire those ones if you're a local, so you have to have a local phone number, I think it was. So I wasn't able to get that. I had to go through a different hire company to hire a bike and ride around the beautiful city. But they were incredibly popular and positioned strategically so that people could really make them their mode of transport.
And with those, I did some in London years ago. You had to actually park them back in the docking station for your credit card to switch off.
That's
right.
And
they lock in.
But they had lots of docking stations at the locations around the city.
I like the concept of there's a local's price and a foreigner's price. It's a bit like menus there, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, you flip the menu over to get the. Yeah, that's right.
Get the specials deal. Well, Todd, look, we're closing in on half an hour. Time flies when. Well, I've had fun.
Yeah,
so,
it's terrific. Great to have a chat.
We've only had a little bit of an insight into you, but over the next few weeks, I'm sure we'll have you back behind the mic.
Love to be back again. Thanks.
Terrific. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Sam.
Lyle.